So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time. Now, needless to say this, you have to revise this lecture just after watching it, because if you don't, if you just watch this lecture, well, these current affairs would quickly skip your memory. So you need to retain them by revising them just after watching the lecture. Now, you can revise this lecture by reading our notes, and these notes are shared on our Telegram platform. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section just below this video. All right then, let's begin today's discussion. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So let's begin. So daily current affairs, 7th of January, Wednesday, and here is the topics list. Number 1 on this list is custom duty on SEZ imports. Okay, so SEZ stands for Special Economic Zones. A recent landmark judgment from the Honorable Supreme Court came out with respect to this topic, so we will talk about this. Okay. Then topic number 2 was an article related to line of actual control, the de facto border between India and China and the problems on that border. Then topic number 3 is with respect to economy in Goldilocks zone. Now, Goldilocks zone is a very good zone in which India's economy finds itself, and this zone is going to continue till January 2027 or 2027. So what is this Goldilocks zone? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about problems in NATO. Donald Trump recently threatened that he will invade Greenland. If he does so, well, this could jeopardize and lead to the destruction of North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. So we'll talk about this topic as well. All right. So these are the 4 news items. Topic number 1 is related to economics portion of your UPSC syllabus. Topic number 2 related to international relations. Topic number 3 is related to economics. And topic number 4, again, international relations. So these are the 4 topics. Let's start discussing them one by one. Starting with topic number 1, and that is customs on SEZ, customs duty on SEZ imports. Now, what is SEZ? SEZ stands for Special Economic Zones. Now, why were these Special Economic Zones set up? You see, the thing is that in India, if you manufacture something and you export it, then you have to pay the government some export duty. Plus, you have to pay a whole lot of taxes, whole host of taxes, right? Now, government wants to promote exports, but it also wants to collect taxes. So what did the government do? The government created these special geographical zones in which if you'll manufacture, then that territory would be considered as foreign territory. Okay, so government basically created these special geographic zones, called them SEZs, and these SEZs for all taxation purposes would be considered foreign territory, because it is considered foreign territory for taxation purposes only, not others. Well, no taxes are levied on these manufacturing factories, and because of that, they can freely export. These geographical regions were created to boost exports without taxes. But the thing is, if in these SEZs you're producing something and that product is being sold in India, which is known as domestic tariff area, then you have to pay import duty. Because when you import something from foreign territory, you pay import duty. So SEZs are foreign territory for economic purposes, right? Now, the thing is, recently Adani Group was producing electricity in SEZs, and that electricity was being sold in India only. Then government charged import duty on that. So Adani basically launched a case and won in Supreme Court, right? So this was the background of the news. Now let's investigate what SEZs are and what are the laws with respect to this. Okay, so let's begin. So customs duty on SEZ imports. So what was in the news? Supreme Court ruled on January 5, 2026 that customs duty cannot be levied on electricity supplied from special economic zone to the domestic tariff area, which is India. Okay, overturning a 2019 Gujarat High Court decision and granting Adani Power a refund of duties paid from 2010 to 2016. Now, what was the case all about? To understand that, you need to understand SEZs. Now, SEZs are special geographical zones which for economic purposes are considered a foreign territory. That means Indian taxation laws won't apply on them. The purpose was that factories in this area produce products free of taxes, okay, and they are able to export it at a lower price because they are not paying any taxes. But the government made it conditional that if anything produced in SEZ is being sold in India, then like India charges import duty on any product being imported from foreign territory, India will charge an import duty on product being imported from SEZ as well. Okay, makes sense? Now let's talk about the case. So what happened in this case? So there was this thermal power plant which belonged to Adani, and this thermal power plant was in a SCZ. Okay, now through this thermal power plant electricity was being produced, and this electricity was being sold in India. And for technical reasons, or the technical terminology for this is domestic tariff area. Now SCZs are considered foreign territory, so if you can apply import duty on any imports from abroad, you can apply import duty, import tax on products coming from SCZs. Okay, so government used this power and taxed the electricity being sold by Adani Power, right? But what's the objection then? The objection is that if government is, let's suppose, importing electricity from Nepal, well, there is zero import duty. When India imports electricity from any other actual country, there is zero duty. But when India is importing electricity from an SCZ, well, it is charging an import duty. So Adani said that there is no parity. For actual imports, you're charging an import duty. For buying electricity from me, you are not charging an import duty. You are charging an import duty, right? So there is no parity. So he went to Gujarat High Court. Gujarat High Court in 2019 gave a judgment in favor of the government. So he appealed against that judgment in the Honorable Supreme Court, and in the Supreme Court, Adani Power won. So this is the background. But let's talk about the law. Okay, what are the provisions of SCZs? So Section 12 of Customs Act levies duty only on goods imported into India, not internal movements. So import duty shall be levied on imported goods, that is Section 12. But Section 30 says, Section 30 of SCZ Act says, Section 30 deems SCZ to DTA clearances as imports for duty parity, but okay, so under Section 30 you can apply import duty, okay, on products from SCZs. But Supreme Court said that Supreme Court held this as rate alignment clause, not creating a new taxing event. So basically Supreme Court said that this provision, Section 30, says that for that product, whatever import duty is being charged for actual imports will be charged for SCZ imports. This doesn't give you a new power to levy taxes. You just have to achieve parity with other imports. Now electricity imports are zero, so Adani Power imports should also be zero. This was the idea. Okay. Section 25 of Customs Act allow exemptions in public interest but cannot impose fresh levies where the base rate is nil. That's different. Okay. Adani's argument was that Section 30 does give you power to apply import duty on SCZ imports, but that should be similar to actual imports. And because electricity actual imports were zero, so that should be the case with my electricity from SCZs as well. Make sense? So this was the thing. The whole idea was to make you familiar with SCZs. Okay, that's about it. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and it is related to an article published in Indian Express, and that is line of actual control. Now what is line of actual control? Basically, line of actual control is the de facto border between India and China. Okay, this is the de facto border. That means as per common understanding of India and China, this is the border that both sides agree upon. But the thing is that line of actual control is pretty vague. There are so many loopholes in this line of actual control. There are so many disagreements on the map. That is why India and China have so many border disputes. Clear? Plus, China claims Arunachal Pradesh, okay, and China doesn't recognize that part of LAC. So it is a disputed border. That was in the news. But what is LAC actually? And as far as India-China border is concerned, we also talk about McMahon line. So what is the difference between LAC and McMahon line? We'll talk about this also. So let's talk about LAC, its history, its origin, everything. Okay, so let's begin. So the article features expert analyzing China's Arunachal Pradesh claims amid US support, labeling it as core interest. Okay, USA basically gave out a report in which it said that China considers Taiwan and Arunachal Pradesh as its core interest. So this was really threatening for India. Plus, a traveler from Arunachal Pradesh was traveling to UK and she halted, her flight halted at Shanghai. She was detained over there saying that we don't recognize Arunachal Pradesh, your place of residence. So this is something that China does to irritate India. Okay. Now, to understand this dispute, you need to understand McMahon line and LAC evolution. So what is LAC? Historical evolution. So McMahon line emerged from 1913-14 Shimla Conventions. Okay. So basically there was a war between British India and Tibet, and this dispute was solved between the two sides. So in 1913-14 Shimla Agreement was signed, which decided the border between India and Tibet. Okay, where British India and Tibet exchanged letters formalizing Arunachal Pradesh boundary. So remember this, McMahon line is boundary between India and China along Arunachal Pradesh, not Ladakh. Okay, the line follows watershed principle. So what is watershed principle? It is given in your notes. Okay, now the thing is, why does China dispute this? China says that when Tibet finalized this line with British India, Tibet did not take our permission. Okay, and back then China claims that Tibet was a subsidiary of China. But the problem is that post Qing dynasty of China, Tibet acted independently. Before 1911, Tibet was under Chinese suzerainty. But Tibet was acting independently since 1911. So it decided this boundary without taking, it didn't feel the need to take China's permission. Okay. And this was till 1950. In 1950, after communist takeover, China said, where is the permission? So we don't recognize this McMahon line, which is the border between India and, India's Arunachal Pradesh and China. China rejects it, calling Arunachal Pradesh Zangnan or South Tibet. Okay. Now, how did LAC came into being? So Zhou Enlai of China, Chinese premier, 1959 letter introduced line of actual control. So he gave this concept of line of actual control to India. Okay. India rejected it. But in 1962 war, India had to accept it because India lost that war. Right? Then, finally, India recognized it formally in 1993 by signing various agreements with China. Okay. So 1993, Border Peace and Tranquility Agreement, BPTA, well, both sides recognized LAC, pending settlement. Yes, they agreed LAC is temporary border, pending final border settlement. Then in 1996, military confidence building measures were conducted to clarify certain loopholes in LAC, because LAC is not clear. It is very vague. It is not clear on the map also, and that is why there are disputes. In 2005, well, political parameters were set up, safeguard settlement populations. China agreed that settled populations in Arunachal Pradesh, well, that will be safeguarded, even though China recognizes Arunachal Pradesh as its own territory. And finally, in the Ladakh area, not Arunachal Pradesh, well, there was Galwan standoff. And China since then has been making this entire LAC hot. Okay. Now, you need to know about LAC and McMahon line. Okay. So, LAC means the entire border between India and China. Now, entire border between India and China can be divided into three sectors. This is known as Western sector, this red line, Ladakh. Okay. This is known as, yellow line is known as middle sector, which is Uttarakhand. Okay. And this Sikkim border and Arunachal Pradesh border is known as the eastern sector. This Arunachal Pradesh border is your mostly similar to McMahon line. Okay, this is the thing. Now, what does China claims, and how is China making this entire region unstable? China offered package deal. You know what China offered way back in 1960, before the war? China said that, and after 1962 war also, Zhou Enlai also offered this. So China said that we will give you this portion, Aksai Chin portion, you give us Arunachal Pradesh. China did give us that deal, but later India did not accept it, obviously. Therefore, China also withdrew from this. Offered East concessions for West, reversed in 1985, demanding Indian East concession first. China said, we still can do this deal, but first you have to hand over Arunachal Pradesh. India is not at all interested in this deal. Okay. Then recently, China became really aggressive. Grey zone tactics. What is grey zone tactics? Not war, not peace. By detaining our people from Arunachal Pradesh, by releasing maps, China is making this border hot. You understand? By the way, in your notes, there is a table that I've shared. That table delineates the difference between McMahon line and LAC. Okay, so do go through that. And now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is economy in Goldilocks zone. So the latest meeting of Monetary Policy Committee chaired by RBI Governor. Well, RBI Governor announced that India's economy is in that sweet spot. What is this sweet spot? Growth, GDP growth is rising, inflation is low, and employment is also rising. Okay. Generally, India is used to high inflation and low growth or medium growth. But today, in this particular situation, India has medium to high growth, very low inflation, good employment levels, good employment statistics. This he called Goldilocks zone. Indian economy lies in Goldilocks zone. And the latest report came out by from RBI, and it said that this Goldilocks zone is going to continue till 2027. Indian economy appears nice. It is the only bright spot in the entire world economy. So, what is Goldilocks zone? We'll talk about this. Okay, so let's begin. So, economy in Goldilocks zone. So, for Indian economy, 2025 was a major Goldilocks phase with three major surprises: robust GDP, low inflation, and muted impact of high tariffs. People thought that India's economy is going to collapse because of American tariffs, but nothing happened. Okay, not anything major happened. Now, about Goldilocks zone. So, Goldilocks zone for Indian economy describes an optimal state of balanced growth, low and stable inflation, low in unemployment, financial stability. So, the economy is not overheating. That means high growth, high inflation. Overheating is that. Nor underheating or stagnant, low growth. Okay, it is proper balanced. Now, this name after the fairy tale where conditions are just right. Okay, so Goldilocks means the name is borrowed from a fairy tale. Which says Goldilocks is that position where the conditions are just perfect. By the way, Goldilocks zone, the word Goldilocks is also used in space technology. Goldilocks zone is that area in the universe where the conditions are proper for life to exist. So if a planet lies in Goldilocks zone, it is neither too hot nor too cold, and life can begin there. Okay, so Goldilocks zone is used in space as well, in economy as well. Conditions are just right. It enables RBI policy flexibility, boost investment, support consumption, and everything. Now, what are the characteristics of Indian Goldilocks? Growth high, okay, without inflationary pressures, strong job creation, current account and fiscal deficit remain manageable, and rupee is declining, but it is fairly stable, 88 to 92, though many people dispute this part. Okay, and low NPAs, banking NPAs. Now, what are the benefits? Well, it will encourage private capital expenditure, private investment, boost equity market, FDI inflow. It will allow government to take reforms like lowering taxes, because government is not worried about revenue because economy is doing great. Okay. Now, there are two terms that you need to be familiar with: tailwinds, headwinds. Tailwinds means those factors which are pushing this Goldilocks zone, and headwinds means those factors which are stopping this Goldilocks zone. All right. So tailwinds, festive consumption, kharif sowing, kharif bumper crop production. This is pushing Goldilocks zone. What is stopping Goldilocks zone? Global tariffs and declining rupee. But benefits are all right, but India needs to be watchful. Okay, there are certain risks that are lurking around. What are those risks? Challenges. Over reliance on base effects could reverse inflation upward. Okay, currently inflation is down because of base effect, and we have talked about base effect. Okay, this base effect is going to go away and inflation would rise again. Then tax revenue is not growing, tax buoyancy, policy flip-flops, external shocks like US tariffs, inequality in urban and rural areas, and we don't know how much private investment would come in by private people and how sustainable it will be. Make sense? Okay. And that would be all. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is problems with NATO. Now, what is NATO? NATO is a military alliance of 32 countries which involves countries from North America, USA, Canada, and European countries. Now, it was formed in 1949 to provide collective security to all these countries against Soviet Union. So it was created to protect countries against Soviet Union. It was a military alliance. An attack on any one country would be considered an attack on all, so everyone would jump in that war. Okay, America created this alliance, USA. Now the thing is, Denmark is a member of NATO, USA is a member of NATO, and USA basically, it said openly that it is thinking about invading Greenland and occupying Greenland. Now, Greenland belongs to Kingdom of Denmark. If military action is taken in Greenland, that would mean one NATO member is attacking another NATO member. So this would mean collapse of NATO, this military alliance. Okay. So in this topic, we will focus on NATO. What is it? Where are its headquarters? And what are its special provisions? Okay. So let's quickly finish this. Problems with NATO. So this is the symbol of NATO. US has raised the prospect of using military force to take control of Greenland as leaders in Europe, Canada are siding with Denmark. Okay. Danish Prime Minister has warned that any attack by US would spell the end of NATO, and many European countries are supporting Denmark on this and anti-US in this. Now, this is basically all the NATO countries. Okay. This is North America, USA and Canada, and mostly it is Western European countries. Okay. Now, just remember, it was formed in 1949, currently has 32 member countries. It is a military alliance. Article 5 of this military treaty says that an attack on one is attack on all. So if Russia invades, let's suppose Finland, then all countries would come and fight Russia. So this provides collective security. Okay. Its headquarters are in Brussels, Belgium. And some extra information is given in your notes regarding NATO. Do go through this. The highest decision-making body within NATO is North Atlantic Council. Okay, so all these basic trivia is given in your notes. Do go through this. Now the thing is, USA said that we want to occupy NATO because we are worried about our national security. Greenland is important for America's national security. That's what Donald Trump said. Because we basically want to protect ourselves from the military buildup of Russia and China in the Arctic region. Now, NATO says that we are also worried about Russia and China. So why don't we all come together and take care of this threat? Why do you want to take control of Greenland? Okay, we are a group, we are allies. Let's work together. Why are you occupying Greenland? That's what NATO countries are saying. Now, why is Greenland critical for Europe or Denmark or the entire NATO? Let's talk about this. So why Greenland matters for NATO? Greenland hosts Thule Air Base, critical for missile warning, missile defense, space surveillance for both US and NATO. The island sits astride GI-UK, Greenland, Iceland, UK gap. From this gap, many shipping routes pass. Okay, so control of those shipping routes, naval routes. Because of this location, Greenland is central to NATO's plans for Arctic deterrence, deterring Russia and China in Arctic region, missile defense, sea lane protection. That is why Greenland matters for the entire NATO. And NATO is saying, USA, why are you occupying Greenland? It belongs to all of us. We can protect Arctic region collectively. Why are you going single-handedly and doing military adventurism against one of your own allies? Let's see what happens in the future. All right. And with that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you are consistent and regular with this lecture series and you revise the notes from the notes shared on our Telegram channel. You revise the lecture. Basically, that's what I want to say. So yeah, on that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.